leverage your own experience. Can you walk me through where you started in your career?
I got into electronics in high school. I did it because my arch rival in high school, Stoney Ballard, was into electronics. And so I decided to do the same. I found electronics fascinating. I started reading the electronics magazines at the local public library, and I just became more and more interested in electronics. So it was clear that I was going to go to college and become an electrical engineer, which is what I did. Funny thing that people don't remember in computers and electronics back in the early 1970s is that the way that you interacted with the computer was by using punched cards and line printers. And I looked at this and I said, well, I'm going to be an electrical engineer, but if this is what computers are, I want nothing to do with them. And then in 1974, my school got a hold of an HP 9830 desktop calculator. And this was the predecessor to personal computer. It was a self-contained unit. It fit on the desk. It had built-in BASIC. And once you closed the door to the room, you were alone with the computer and it was all yours. This is what computers are, then I want everything to do with computers. After about 10 years of that, I'd had pretty much enough of computers. I had designed so many of them that I didn't want to design anymore. And so I designed several generations of workstation based on the Motorola 68000 microprocessor, and I'd had enough. In 1985, EDN magazine ran a very strange ad. It said, we're looking for an engineer who likes to write. We're going to put that person either in Chicago or Texas or Colorado, which is where I was. So I wrote them a note and said I'd like to apply for the position of technical editor. They gave me a writing test, which I passed, and they said, we'd like to hire you. And I said, great. Where do you want me? Are you going to give me Chicago or Colorado or Texas? And they said, yes, we're going to give all of those to you. So I became the regional editor for the center part of the United States. Eventually, I became chief editor. Now, my interest in those magazines had grown up from high school when I started reading them. By the time I was done with that, I had ended up in Silicon Valley working for Microprocessor Report. But Microprocessor Report was being killed by Google. And all the subscription money was going out of the market. And so I became a marketer. And I had joined a company called Tensilica, which was a microprocessor IP company in the marketing group. And I worked in marketing for the next 20 years or so. And now I'm back to sort of journalism, where I'm an analyst with Ethirajan research. All of that is built upon all the experiences that I had, and there's no way that I could have predicted which way my career would go. Now, I want to compare and contrast this with the people that I mentioned in the email to you, like Bob Noyce and Gordon Moore. So Bob Noyce was a physicist, Gordon Moore was a chemist. They went to work in 1955, I believe, or 56, for Shockley Semiconductor Laboratory, just outside of Palo Alto, California. And Bob Noyce was going to be a physicist, and Gordon Moore was going to be a chemist. They quickly found out that Shockley was the world's worst boss. He was quite paranoid, quite the antisocial character, did all kinds of really bad things to his employees, including giving them lie detector tests, publishing everybody's salary, things like that. But the one unforgivable thing that he did is he had promised these people that they were going to develop the silicon transistor. Back then, all the transistors were germanium. And he didn't follow through on that. He became interested in something else. And so no one at Shockley ever developed a silicon transistor. And so 8 of the principal workers at Shockley joined together and became what is known as the Traitorous 8 and founded Fairchild Semiconductor. Bob Noyce became the de facto leader of the group, even though he was the last to join the group before they left. And Gordon Moore became the director of technology. So both of these people immediately went into managerial roles, although they still had a connection with the technology. But they were driven to become something different. Schlumberger had sufficiently messed up Fairchild. Fairchild Cameron Instrument had sufficiently screwed up Fairchild. Noyce and Moore were the last of the original 8 founders of Fairchild Semiconductor to leave, and they founded Intel. And Noyce became CEO of Intel because Fairchild had refused to make him CEO of Fairchild Semiconductor, even though he was a founder. And Gordon Moore became the director of technology. And they brought along with them somebody who had joined Fairchild, Andy Grove. Now, Andy Grove joined as a semiconductor researcher, but when he started at Intel, and he was Intel's first employee, basically he was a founder in everything but name. He immediately became Gordon Moore's hatchet man. Gordon Moore had an aversion to confrontation, which is not a good thing when you're running all of the technology development at a company like Intel. But Andy Grove had his background was that he had faced down Nazi soldiers during World War II and Russian soldiers after World War II. He was not averse to confrontation. So Andy Grove was no longer the semiconductor researcher that he had planned to be. He had gone full-time into management, and that's what he's known for. So all of these people have ended up far afield from where they had started out. And I think that people with the greatest success, that's what they do. They don't know which way they're going to go originally. They are sampling this buffet and relishing what is there as much as possible, and then going where their inclination takes them. Some people succeed quite well at this. Other people, they go down rabbit holes that don't take them anywhere. It's the luck of the draw.
That's a tough one.
It is. There are other examples of people like that, either because choices that didn't pan out or bad luck. Some of them died early from cancer. It just sometimes doesn't pan out. It's the luck of the draw, unfortunately. We like to celebrate the people who really won big, like Gordon Moore. Gordon Moore became a billionaire. He recently passed away just last Friday.
Right.
And he became that because he teamed up with Robert Noyce, and Robert Noyce, and he went very, very far, but through a lot of hard work. I'm not saying it's all luck. I'm saying that it takes luck plus hard work and the right choices.
Any advice on how to increase the confidence of intercepting right choices from your experience?
From my experience, you always have, and this is something that Andy Grove said that I don't necessarily like very much, but I think it's true. You're responsible for your own career. Far too many people in technology rely on their companies to help guide their career. And Andy Grove put a stop to that and said, no, you're responsible for your own career. And I think that's true. You have to be aware of what's happening in your industry, and you have to decide every day if you're heading in the right direction and if you're in the right place. And if you're not, you have to decide whether you want to change that or not.
You definitely have successfully transitioned. You were talking about going from being electronics through correspondence, going into college, getting your first job at HP, then also getting into tech writing. I'm sure you went through challenges, you had headwinds, but you're saying it so seamlessly today. You made it work for you. What helped you make it work for you?
Well, so we haven't discussed the dead ends, the falling off the edge of the cliff that have happened to me. So for example, why did I leave HP? I left HP because subjected to tremendous sexual harassment at HP. One of the things that drove me out of HP, the main thing, was that I had to make a choice between my wife and my career at HP. And it was a fairly easy choice. I picked my wife. So we both left there. And we moved to Boulder, Colorado, an hour south of where HP was. And I ended up at Catnetics. It was the luck of the draw. Before Catnetics, I ended up at a company called Auditrol that was building its own workstations. Didn't work out very well. Auditrol was not committed. I answered a newspaper ad. You know, that's kind of anachronistic in this day and age, but I answered one ad in the newspaper for Catnetics. And I got the job, and I brought some friends with me from Auditrol. And that lasted for 3 years, and it was a very interesting job. It's just luck that I saw that ad. But I was prepared, right? I had read the magazines since the 60s. I had written articles at HP. I had written a book by the time I saw that ad. You prepare for your own luck, but then there's the luck of seeing the ad and getting the job. Each of these examples is because I was on the alert for an opportunity and recognized it as an opportunity and took it. There is a lot of feeling like you're blindly jumping off of a high dive when you do something like that, when you make a big change. But you have to be committed to doing that. And sometimes it works out, as it did with HP and EDN Magazine. And sometimes, like Autotrol, it does not work out. And in fact, before I joined Autotrol, I joined a different company. And I accepted the offer and then had a discussion with them that caused me to immediately reverse my decision within hours. So you have to be committed to sensing what's in front of you and taking the appropriate steps in your career. You must actively guide your own career.
I have a question, if you don't mind. You observe a lot of professionals in today's world. Do you see that they sense what is in front of them? Are they doing that?
Some do and some don't. So, for example, when I came to Silicon Valley, I ran into a phenomenon I had not run into before. A lot of engineers who had originally come from India, they had a policy of joining 4 companies for 2 years at a time and then they would be done, because they expected that at least one of those companies would go public and they would become wealthy and not working. That's an attitude I think that worked for a lot of people, not one that I had run into before, but those people showed great flexibility, and perhaps it's because they had come all the way from India to the United States, so they were just predisposed to doing that. That's a self-selecting market. I don't meet the engineers in India who don't come to the United States. So the ones that I met had already decided to make a huge jump. Again, the people that succeed, we already have used the examples of Robert Noyce and Gordon Moore. They also elected to make the jump when the opportunity arose. And they did it rather fearlessly. It gets easier. Once you're independently wealthy, you can easily make these jumps. But before, they were not independently wealthy when they founded Fairchild. They were wealthy, but not necessarily independent by the time they founded Intel. And then after Intel, they became enormously wealthy. Now, again, so Robert Noyce died of a heart attack at the age of 62. It was a shock to everybody. But again, that's the luck of the draw.
You have a wonderful smile, Steve, and I think with that, this my next question is, joy is in the journey. So whether it's luck of the draw, whether it is you're having a terrible situation or something really good going for you, how would you advise people to have joy in what they do when it comes to work?
I'll turn your question around slightly. You have to know how to deal with adversity. I've been laid off twice in my life, both after passing the age of 55. And the first time I was laid off, I sat in my easy chair for 36 hours straight and I didn't move. You have to know that there is opportunity out there and you have to be determined to go out and find it no matter what. The second time I got laid off, I was fully prepared because I knew what was coming. And so I immediately started working my network, not 36 hours later, but immediately that day. If you want to find joy in the boundless opportunity that surrounds you, and realize that if you don't see the opportunity, it's because you're not looking hard enough. I can't stress enough the value of the network. A lot of engineers don't understand this, but the people that you meet along the way, that's your most valuable asset. And if there's one big mistake that I've made, it's in not valuing that asset and not cultivating those relationships nearly enough.
I'm finalizing the book name and also the subtitle. And so far, the biggest votes are either Grow You Now, which is essentially the name of the company, and Hurry Up Slowly. Which one would be your vote? Hurry Up Slowly or Grow You Now?
I think you want a name that makes a promise. And so I'm not going to pick either of those names. I I think you need to go back to the well.
Okay. You said pick a name that gives a promise. And one of the subtitles that I was leaning towards, there are two, which is Hurry Up Now, Grow You Now, and Unleash Your Greatness. That is one, kind of enigmatic. Another one was Navigate the Corporate Jungle and Get Rewarded Without Working Longer Hours.
I would say that you're very close on the first one, and I would say that the subtitle should be How to Unleash Your Greatness. That's the promise.
How to Unleash Your Greatness.
Yes.
So this can be the subtitle and the promise. And when you said the first one, did you mean Hurry Up Slowly being the book name and then the subtitle being promise? Or?
No, I refuse to pick either of the book titles that you gave me, because I think there's a better one out there, but I can't give it to you. But the subtitle, How to Unleash Your Greatness, seems to me the purpose of your book.
Right. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Steve. I'll keep you updated on the book and other activities, and your continued support and network would be highly appreciated.
Sure. Congratulations on working on the book, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Steve. Take care. I'll be following you closely. Thank you.